83% of Americans state to influence or support of companies' cause efforts, it should be personally important to them. 77% say practical incentives for involvement, such as saving money and time, are important. And 65% found emotional incentives for involvement, such as makes them feel good or alleviates shopping guilt. Basically, what that is telling you, and this is happening more and more, especially with millennials, is that people will buy a product if that product helps support a cause. This is a professor, Gavin Fitzsimmons, at Duke University. He's done extensive studies on how cause marketing can fit in a communications program and what effect it has. This is a pretty dramatic quote. The magnitude of the effect we are finding with cause campaigns are sales lists of multiple share points, which can lead to many millions of dollars in increased revenue. There are very few other levers at marketers' disposal that can achieve that type of result. If this is not part of your marketing communications plan, cause marketing that is, you need to make it because it will bring you some customers. I want to give you some examples. A lot of us are, and I put myself in this audience too, a lot of us are old enough to remember when they redid the Statue of Liberty. Yeah. And American Express got behind that. That was one of the first examples of cause marketing. And they were in it, yes, to help refurbish the Statue of Liberty, but they also wanted more members. At the end of the campaign, card usage was up 28%, and New Year's were up 17%. They've also done some things with homeless and hunger that have really gone a long way with them. Briggs and Stratton, they make the little engines for most lawnmowers. Well, they actually work with the National Wildlife Federation to introduce tune-up kits that can reduce emissions. And as you can see here, they did very well. They actually had a website called tuneupmonth.com, and it resulted in tripling of their tune-up kits and really set Briggs and Stratton apart from their competition. I thought this was one of my favorites right here. Tums, the antacid, they work with the First Responder Institute. Tums helps put out more fires than you think. They raised almost $240,000 for 60 fire departments across the country and saw a 30% increase in the number of displays to stores and a 16% increase in sales volume. So, if you have not made cause marketing part of your communication strategy, please do. Pick a cause. I know everybody is super busy these days. Pick a cause that's near and dear to your heart. If you have a friend that may be suffering from cancer or another health related, pick that and put as much as you can into it. Time, money, resources. It will go a long way with your customers. Now I'm going to get more specifically into Independent We Stand, and what I wanted to show you first are the goals and objectives of the campaign. Number one was to create awareness and educate consumers on the value of shopping independent small businesses and motivate audiences to rally behind the concept of supporting the revival of American small business, and most importantly, drive people to support independent businesses. The rock star of our campaign is the website. We don't have a ton of money, so you won't see a lot of national advertising. So we really spend a lot of time on our website and our social platforms, and I'll get into that. You can find it at independentwestand.org. One of the biggest parts of that website is what we call a business locator. You can actually go in and type your zip code in and find locally owned and operated businesses in your area. This is just an example at my zip code, 23455. When you drill down to a business, and this is Taylor's Do It Center, they actually get their own page with a Google map, puts it on the map, a description, and a photo or logo. And they can actually go back in there and change, if you have a special event or offers. The other important part of the entire campaign is to educate both businesses and consumers about why it's important to shop local. So we have a very extensive learn more section. It's just a sample of some of the materials that you'll find while you're in there. We have a number of research and studies in there. You've already seen some of the gemstones pulled from these studies. These are executive briefs. They're not 50 to 60, 100-page studies. You have a chance to get in there because you will learn the specifics, the research that's been done to promote why it's important to buy local, why so much of that money returns to the local community. We also are constantly updating articles and news stories you'll find in there. It's really starting to pick up some steam. The business press is really starting to notice. They're seeing this stuff out there. We were actually in the Wall Street Journal just a couple of months ago, and they're really starting to take notice. We also have some great books that we recommend. One of the best we call is The Distribution Trap. It was written by a couple of professors at the University of Akron, and it really took a hard look, especially at manufacturers who have chosen to market their products and those that have chosen not to at the big boxes. Steel actually has its own chapter in there, and it talks specifically about why Steel chose not to go with the big boxes. I would highly recommend it. There's also a great book called The Big Box Swindle and The Small Mart Revolution, so you'll find links to those. I would highly recommend those, and I would highly recommend that you buy them from Prince Books.
Better get them in there, Sarah.
One of the wonderful things about Prince Books is you can do it online. You can still support your local bookstore and do it online. I did that just a couple of months ago. It's very easy to do. We have an extensive amount of marketing materials. Everything from posters that talk about some of those gemstones I showed you, to flyers, to bag stuffers. We actually have a member badge you can put on your website, link back to us. We also have very extensive videos. I'll actually show you where those are available. It's on the YouTube channel in a second. But we also have some fun with it. Our PR strategy this year has really been focused on what we call retail touch points. We took a hard look at the figures when it came to what are the busiest holidays to buy things, gifts, so forth and so on. Obviously the winter holidays. But I'll bet you didn't know that Valentine's is the second busiest retail holiday. So we came up with this campaign, kind of took off. We actually have people saving this as their profile on their Facebook pages. This post right here, the one in the middle, Kiss Me Out Local, was for St. Patty's Day, and we actually had an article in the Wall Street Journal about that. And that one's for Easter. We have one coming up for Halloween, and again for the winter holidays. We actually have a back to school one as well. And as I mentioned, we made available the code and everything you would need to take the Independent We Stand logo and put it on your website. This is an example of an ace dealer. We also have the ability for consumers to go into the website and take the pledge to buy local. What's wonderful about this is after they've taken the pledge, they can email it to friends, share it on Facebook, and tweet about it. And it's really taken off. As far as social platforms go, we have a very good Facebook page at www.facebook.com, Independent We Stand. We have about 3,600 fans. It's a great place for business owners to intermingle with other business owners as well as consumers. We also have a Twitter account. You can't do anything these days without a Twitter account. I'm not a huge Twitter fan, but I have a staff member that's always tweeting 3 or 4 times a day with some of those gemstones, some of the other studies that you'll see. I don't get it yet. I'm not sure you guys are doing it, but it's just way too much work for me.
I feel better, Sarah.
Played on it last night again. Try so hard to get it.
I don't think I have enough time in the day. We have an excellent group on LinkedIn. As everybody knows, LinkedIn is probably the best business-to-business social platform that's out there. If you just search under groups for Independent We Stand, you'll find it. And then we have a very extensive YouTube channel. We have found that videos are probably our most shared resource on the net. We produce about 25 videos. Every few months we go on an Independent We Stand road trip. We had one in February called IWS 2.0. We literally drove, we zigzagged down the East Coast from Raleigh, Charleston, Savannah, Jacksonville, and Tampa. And we just stopped at locally owned and operated businesses and we asked them, the business owners, what challenges have you faced in the most recent economy? What do you do to stand out from your competition? And now you get to hear from real business owners with emotion in their voice and real stories. It's really taken off. We have almost 13,000 views at this point. Wow. Klaus did one for us that worked really well, talked about supporting the local arts community and why it's important. You can use these videos however you want. As you guys probably know with Facebook, videos do really well, same on Twitter. And so we've gotten a lot of engagement from that. If you want to use these on your website, whatever, just link to it, and they're yours to use. We actually have 23 that are vignettes, 30 seconds to 1 minute, and then we have full-length videos, including one we did right up here called Local versus Big Box, the Taste Test. We actually had Todd Urich help us cook a meal that was hamburgers, fries, with a beer about 3 months ago, and we had 3 food critics, 1 blogger, 1 from the Virginia Pilot, and 2 from the Virginia Pilot, and literally blind taste tested everything. We bought, Todd, if you guys don't know, sources almost all of his food locally, does a great job. Then we sent a team out to buy the same ingredients at a local big box that will remain unnamed, and literally serve these food critics side by side, and they could tell without a doubt which was done locally. And actually creme brulee we thought was going to be the hardest one. That was what was for dessert, because it's basically eggs and cream and 1 more or 2 ingredients. They nailed it right away. If you get a chance to look at that, it's a little bit long, but it's fun to see these food critics stumped, or not stumped. campaign is 12 months old. In fact, last Tuesday we celebrated the year since the website went live. We spent the first 3 or 4 months just building that database so that consumers had a useful tool to find and support local businesses. And we have 65,000 businesses in the database today. That's a combination of organic growth, plus we've been working with organizations like the American Booksellers Association and other specialty retail groups. There's one for running, there's one for toys, and they've helped us build that database. We have 71,000 consumer pledges and businesses. That's the ticker that you'll see on the front of the page. That's a combination of both the 65,000 businesses and then another 6,000 consumers who have taken the pledge. Our PR team has been very strong. I mentioned the Wall Street Journal articles. We've also been an Entrepreneur, USA Today, and a couple of others. Basically what this is telling you, we have almost $16.5 million in editorial value because we don't have an advertising budget. That's how we get the word out. Website is really starting to kick into high gear. It's about 30,000 unique visitors. On a national basis, that's very low, but we're really starting to see some energy and hoping that'll build quickly. We have almost 160,000 page views. Does everybody know what a page view is? You know, basically, you go to a website, you go 4 deep, that counts as 4 page views. And we have we get about 1,000 business searches a month, and that's building dramatically, especially over the last couple of months with Wall Street Journal and so forth and so on. That's where people go in and basically type in their zip codes and find their local businesses. Through a partnership with Retail Alliance last fall, we already have most of the members in there. But if you afterwards want to go through and try it and see if you're in there, let me know. If you want to change your description or add a logo, just let me know, shoot me an email. And that is basically Independent We Stand. Does anybody have any questions, comments? It's been a fun ride. It is great to work with small business owners. Yes, ma'am.
You know, ABA has really been doing this for years and years, and I would go to seminar after seminar about shop local campaigns, and I had all the support, you know, from the ABA and from another group before you all. I forgot the name of it.
There's the 350 Project.
No.
There's ABA, IndieBound, which you're talking about.
No.
American Business Alliance of Local Living Economies, Bali.
That one.
Bali.
And but it was just too much for me. I couldn't do it. It was just too much. And I sent out a few emails to various business people, and I never heard back from them. And I just couldn't. It's like another job.
It is. It does take a lot.
But then you
retail.
are you're a year old, but you're older than.
We've been an entity since the spring of 2010. We didn't go live on the website until mid-September last year.
Wow. So you don't need added work.
Right,
You
so-
just need effectiveness.
Well, still has a few more resources than you
Yeah.
do too.
Yes.
Even though you don't have an ad budget.
No ad budget. And my background is advertising, and not to have an ad budget
Yeah.
is a challenge. You beg.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that because we had a series of ads that Steele donated out of their national schedule on USA Today last spring. And right after that, we had probably 4 or 5 small town newspapers, radio stations, and magazines contact us and say, hey, can we have the artwork? We want to approach the local businesses in our area and I don't have a copy of the ad, but basically it showed 3 real business people and the effect that calculator that I showed you, the $10 calculator. And I think it's run in Danville, Virginia, a small town in Ohio.
Yeah.
There's actually a large magazine in Dallas that's considering it. There's an outdoor company in Rochester that wants to use it. So, you know what? I'll work with them in a heartbeat if they can get me up on a 48-foot billboard in Rochester, New York.
I'm in the government affairs area for Retail Alliance. We have some really huge issues for small business coming up in Virginia General Assembly, and one of them, Amazon sales tax collection,
National
is
sales
now at
tax.
the federal level.
Yep.
And I'm looking at this and say, how do we partner and ramp this up to get grassroots engagement with our legislators and congressmen?
The challenge in my limited experience with legislators is they are very pro small business, but they're somewhat challenged by locally owned. And a lot of them get a lot of PAC money from the big chains.
Right.
Target has its
Walmart.
own PAC, Walmart has its own
Amazon.
PAC. And I want to reiterate, you will not see us bash any chains or big boxes if they're socially responsible, and even then, we we want to be more of a positive campaign, so you will not see us blogging about how bad Walmart is or anything like that.
Well, I know with the Richmond campaign, their buy local campaign, there are big boxes that have actually inserted themselves into the full page ads in the newspaper.
I noticed that too.
For
They are
support?
members, like we have some big
Oh.
box members, of the
Don't
retail
get me wrong,
outlets.
there are some big boxes and some chains that do wonderful stuff in their communities. We're not out to bash them in any way, but this is about the small, locally owned business, giving them a hand up, giving them the ability to tell consumers that guess what, most of the money you spend locally with me is
Yeah.
gonna recirculate the economy. More jobs, better tax base, better schools, better roads.
Well, if I might be very frank and quite crass, we give almost as much as the big boxes in our political contributions. So we are recognized because we play in that arena. And I am still looking at this and thinking, wow, with Depot and Amazon and some of these issues we have, it would just be great to.
Well, we'll help in any way we can. We don't have a large lobbying group.
Yeah.
I'll be glad to
I
speak
mean,
to
we have all
anybody,
the
but.
information, we're working on a PowerPoint right now to take out to small business groups.
Okay. Well, when you, a lot of the research you'll see, the biggest thing is that's national sales tax. It's absolutely unfair and
Yeah.
has been for, I mean, let me rephrase that. The fact that Amazon doesn't charge tax.
Collect,
and
sales
tax.
doesn't collect
Yeah.
tax in 45 of 50 states or whatever it is. And then, again, I hesitate because I'm not.
I'll
You
say
should
it.
probably speak to it.
I'll say it.
She's driven the issue.
Amazon has really thrown its weight around.
Yeah, they are
Really
spending a
thrown
lot
its
of
weight
money
around.
to
They've
not have to
closed down
collect sales tax.
distribution plants in Texas,
Right.
I believe,
Yeah.
when they didn't get their way.
Right.
They-
Now,
they-
I was on a
Amazon does.
conference call yesterday, and the national retail trade groups are drafting this bill to take to the super committee. And Amazon has said they are on board, and that's sort of a joke, but we'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
I think a bill's actually been introduced.
Yeah, it has been introduced, and they are now working to get it to the super budget committee.
Did you get the email from Orrin Tiger?
I have not. I saw Main Street Alliance made an announcement the other day.
Well, he's the president or CEO of the American Booksellers Association, and Amazon has forced this deal with California. And I know Orrin is kind of writing about, well, he's very skeptical of what Amazon's intentions are, and I think that they're pushing for the national sales tax because they know it'll get stalled.
Yeah.
So.
It's being carried by the Democrats when it gets to the House Republicans, I think.
I personally just think state sales tax is just fine, and it's not complicated at all to collect it for
Yeah,
the state.
Amazon in the past has complained, well, we can't charge 300 or 400 different sales taxes because there's 50 states and
Yeah.
so many cities, and you know what?
There's
Anybody that can
programs
do a
for
good
that.
spreadsheet can make that happen in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
somebody as technologically advanced as
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
And
maybe this is a conversation for another place and time, but, I think so much of the work we do is really dedicated to small business and small retail.
They really are the cornerstone and the economic engine that has the ability to take this economy and bring it back on its feet.
I have, since you've been familiar with this campaign, now I've been noticing, we've been doing a lot of traveling around the state because my daughter plays field hockey in college, and we're going to these little dinky little towns, and there's a little hardware store and a big old steel sign sitting there.
Oh,
Just seeing them
great.
Farmville and.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know there was a mower shop until I started
Yeah.
working for Steel, and I love working with these folks.
Yeah.
And the small dinette next door, or the pharmacist that's been there for 150 years, and the original founder's granddaughter now is running the place. It is inspiring to be out there and talk to these folks. We were at a hardware store in Louisville last fall that was 200 years old. They'd been on the same corner, and the great-great-great-grandson was running the place.
Kind of gives you goosebumps,
Does.
doesn't it?
I'm getting right now. I'm getting right now. He was a great interview too,
Oh,
because
God.
I mean, you guys are examples of this. The passion in your voices when you tell folks about your business.
Yeah.
You don't often see that as a manager with a national chain.
Is it okay if I sit in?
Absolutely.
Do you want to sign in too?
Sure.
Okay.
The one thing I would really encourage you guys to do, both in your personal and professional, is think local from now on. Now that
Yeah.
you've heard my pitch, whether it's local
I do.
office supplies, we have 2 great office supply folks in the room, or local catering.
That's okay.
Sorry, my apologies.
We
We're
compliment
more,
each other.
we're
though.
more specific, but.
Yeah, we're more
Right.
complimentary versus.
Right, if
I
you're
think.
gonna
And we
take
are
a-
too.
take an
Yeah.
important client out to lunch or cater an event, think local. Again, I'm not bashing the national chains, but often these local restaurants have kind of a unique character about them, or a unique menu, or you're likely to meet the owner behind the counter that's also supporting the local Little League team, serves on the city council, things you might not see in a chain.
How do you define this? I mean, and I ask that because I'm in sort of a gray area. I mean, I'm an independently owned franchise.
Right.
So, frankly, Rapid Refill nationally could qualify as a small business. So, but having said that, I mean,
It really depends on the amount of control that the national company has over their franchisees. McDonald's probably not gonna make it into our database. I don't know
Right.
much about Rapid Refill. But there are buying groups like ACE. You'll find ACE dealers in here,
Mhm.
Goods dealers. It's really a buying co-op, even though some folks consider it, well, ACE is technically a franchise. ACE has very little control over the name of the business and the look of the business. They try and influence, but they will not kick you out because you don't call yourself Bill's Ace Hardware. It can be Bill's Hardware and you're still an ACE dealer. There's a series of 5 questions when you first register on Independent We Stand, and one of the fourth one is basically, what we're trying to determine is where's the ownership, is it local? What kind of, do you make the majority of the decisions for the business, look, appearance, and operations local? And we go from there, but again, it really varies by franchise and how much they control. We don't have a lot of franchises at all. I actually met with a group of pharmacists, and now I'm not gonna remember the name of the,
Epic.
Epic is one of them, and it's a similar model. I don't remember the name of the one I was talking to the other day, but basically they can get out of the franchise agreement in 30 days, and they're not required to buy the products from the parent company. So to us, that was a locally owned and operated business. And again, it really varies. If you want to talk about it afterwards, or go and try and register on that website and see if you answer all the questions. We'll go from there. Any other questions, comments?
It's just so great.
Keep it up.
It's a blast to work on, it really is.
I
I've
bet,
been doing this
I
for
bet.
25 plus years, and this has been the funnest
Better
client I've ever worked
than
on.
advertising.
And I will be honest with you too, I have worked with some of the biggest chains from an advertising and marketing standpoint, including McDonald's. When I first got into this business, I worked 5 years on a McDonald's co-op in Washington. I have McDonald's owner-operators that are still good friends, and I know that they do a lot in their community. They are, McDonald's does some great things, especially with children's charities. This is not a campaign to bash McDonald's or any of the other chains. It's just a campaign to give the guy at the sub shop on the corner
To
a leg
lift
up.
up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody that may not have the marketing resources and distribution channels, that kind of thing.
So if, let's say somebody signs up, what are some things that they should first utilize?
I think the very first thing you should do is go to the Learn More section and take a look at those studies and articles and those books. There's a lot of good stuff up there. We try and consolidate. If something else comes up new, we have a blog. We post it every day. We share it on Facebook. We tweet it, and we share it on LinkedIn. And as I mentioned, the whole buy local movement is really starting to grow, and consumers are starting to get it, especially the young millennials who have really taken to cause marketing. I'm trying to think of some of the campaigns like the pink labels. The pink labels for Dannon to raise awareness and funds for breast cancer has just taken off. People want to know that their money is doing more than just making some national company rich. I will also tell you that steel is in this for the long run. And if you notice, when you go to the website, you'll hardly see anything about steel. It's actually buried in the lower right-hand corner of the website. Their intent was not to sell more chainsaws. Yes, they would benefit from it, but their intent was twofold: to tell folks, especially their dealers, they're not going anywhere. We're behind you. We're going to be here. You've been here for us. You've been here for us for almost 40 years. We're going to be here for you for the next 40 years. That goes a long way with these tiny mom and pop shops that have been struggling during this economy. And secondly, they want to tell consumers, you know what? Think about where you spend your money. And if you spend it locally, it's going to recirculate and help you out more than it'll help the chains.
I was so struck by, I mean, that Steele is taking this cause on, excuse me. When I first started, I thought, what did they just decided they wanted to just start a campaign?
Yeah. I mean, it's been an amazing
Just
brand to work
support
on.
the
I've worked in
people.
this area now for 20 years, and steel has always been there. I've had a couple of friends go and
Yeah.
work there, but I really didn't realize what a strong brand it was until I started working for them. It's like the Harley Davidson of
Mhm.
power tools. And I always knew that they were just doing it with dealers and small independent businesses, and I was like, how are they gonna do that? And they did it. Last year they became the #1 handheld power equipment manufacturer in the country by working with these guys that you see in the videos and on the website.
Well, from a marketing standpoint, it makes perfect sense because it's consistent with your distribution.
Right.
Exactly.
Work. I mean, so you're gaining. Steel would gain a great deal just from the benefit they're going to get from their dealers' support for them.
Yep. A
from
lot of these
having this
dealers,
campaign.
that's a good point, because a lot of these dealers will carry Husqvarna, which is one of their
Mhm.
primary competitors, on one wall, and Steel on the other. And when they see this campaign, when that customer comes in looking for a chainsaw, there's a pretty good chance they're gonna steer them towards Steel, and may drop Husqvarna down the road. You won't see a slam Husqvarna on independent. In fact, we have Husqvarna dealers that's all they sell, that are signing up, and Steel made the decision, and this actually was with the legal folks, if they wanna sign up, can they sign up? Absolutely. If they qualify, they get in there. So we've had a lot of echo and a lot of Husqvarna dealers sign up.
There are Husqvarna dealers today, and you're hoping that by being part of this campaign, they will be, or at
Yeah.
least they'll have bring you on as a second supply. So,
We've actually had one Husqvarna dealer in New York that's really engaged with us on Facebook and Twitter. And a Steel sales rep is going to be sitting down with him next week to say,
Right.
hey, I think this is why you probably should
Mhm.
carry Steel as well, or Steel instead. But again,
It creates new conversations.
exactly. But
Yeah.
they purposely said, we do not want this to seem like a Steel campaign. We're gonna fund you through 2012, probably beyond. You don't have to put a huge logo up on the website, you don't have to scream Steel.
Real.
And let's make some noise about why it's important to shop local.
It's wonderful.
It's been a blast, it really has. Any other questions?
Hi.
If you have any questions whatsoever, if you want to be in one of the next videos, shoot me an email. We don't have another road trip scheduled until I think this fall, and that one's up north, but we're always looking for local talent.
Is your name anywhere on this?
No, can we?
I'll
can you
hand out my
email
business
her?
card. I also have a little bit of, I have some sales material and some window decals.
They're
Um,
great. Decals.
We are actually
Can I put
working
it on
with
my
Sarah
car, Sarah?
on an article that she's written for Alt Daily, which, if you guys aren't aware, it's probably one of the best alternative websites. It's in Hampton Roads right now, and the millennials are really, you guys know what millennials
Yeah.
are, right?
Not who we
Um,
are.
They are, Sarah's done a real good job of bringing up the Amazon tax issue, ABA, and why it's important to shop
Is
local.
Sarah?
We're
Yeah.
continually
I was like,
trying
not me.
There's 2 Bonnies and 2 Sarahs
I
in this
know.
tiny room. This is really
We're
funny.
I know, I was
trying
like,
to,
I've written some articles for.
Oh, that's right.
Daily.
You're a good one.
Okay, thank you.
I
It's the
love this.
high-speed
I'm gonna put it on my
radio.
car windows since I work
Okay.
from home.
You got one?
That's okay. Yeah.
But like I mentioned, we're always, because we don't have an advertising budget, we're begging for publicity, and Jesse, the editor at Alt Daily, has agreed to do it, let us write one article a month. And if you're interested, I think we've scheduled enough between the next 6 months, but shoot me an email if you're interested. We'll help you write it, we'll give you some facts and figures, and that kind of stuff.
That is so
Will
good.
any notes be
They don't need
available on this
material.
lecture?
I can actually shoot you a copy of the PowerPoint if you like. Trying to think of the file size. If it's under 10, I can get out on my server. If not, just drop it off sometime. I'm down here all the time. Just leave me your card. Oh, you actually left it?
The pictures, if you've noticed, all the pictures of the business owners all stand like.
Yes, I noticed.
We actually, I
it's
forgot to mention, we have a
branding.
Flickr account. If you guys want to go to Flickr and just look for independent stand, we probably have 50 to 100 business owners that have taken their own pictures out front of their own shops to send them in. It's been fun,
That's-
it's been a blast.
That was the 1800s, early
Is
1900s.
that posed by design?
Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
just
it's right
do
Do you
it.
look at the logo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's doing this.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
It's funny because it's, because of our limited budget, it's actually clip art. You can find that guy posing, and the other day I saw somebody else use it. It wasn't a buy local group, but I was like, well, you guys know, especially with budgets the way they are, you can use stock photography, you can get in a heartbeat. Just keep an eye out because everybody else can too. And I've had clients that have had competitors using the same photography, especially in the IT field. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Bill, came in later. Are you local?
Based in Virginia Beach.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great job.
Sure, sure.
And if you know anybody who couldn't come today, I'm gonna put that on YouTube. I'll put a link on the Retail Alliance.
You think it
sorry,
worked?
Facebook. What was that?
Did it work? I mean.
Yeah, I put
Good.
new batteries in. I have extra batteries, so.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you know anybody, just check out the Retail Alliance Facebook page and forward the link to everybody. And aren't some of the PowerPoints on the website?
Yeah, the one on the website doesn't quite go into the detail about steel, and it's